Hey everybody, and welcome to The Void, a show dedicated to filling the void between being an employee and becoming self-employed. Most people refer to starting your own company as taking the leap, as if they're blindly jumping off a cliff and into the unknown. This show is here to help you understand that it doesn't have to be that way. As always, if you like what you're hearing on the show, please do us a favor and help share The Void with somebody else who might also be wanting to start their own company. We saw an opportunity to help others understand that self-employment is well within your reach, and just as our businesses have grown organically and by word of mouth, we want this show to grow the same way. So if you see somebody asking questions about starting their own service-based business, please do us a favor and drop them a link to the show. I'm your host, Mitch Smedley, and with me as always is David Hilton.
Mitch.
David.
What's up, buddy?
What up?
You know what I've noticed? The more I watch... It's 2 days after Christmas. Mm-hmm. The more I watch Christmas Vacation, the more I realize you are exactly...
Oh, I'm him?
The dad.
Yeah.
You are Clark Griswold.
The more I watch it, the more I realize he wasn't crazy.
Oh, no, he's bad crap crazy.
He's pushed to his edge.
Yeah, he's on the edge, like on the whole movie.
Yeah.
You are him.
Yeah, it could be.
That is you.
Yeah, I got about the same level of in-laws, right?
The same with the Grinch. You hear that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, but it's Mitch. That's Mitch's personality, his characteristics, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Like, I always just used to think, I'm kind of like, no, I'm not, no, that's Mitch.
That's me.
Mitch losing his mind.
Austin's talking about the Grinch. Have you seen all the videos that pop up where parents are staging somebody dressed like the Grinch to, like, break into their home with their kids there? To break into their home in front of their children and steal presents out from under the tree and then dart out the door.
It's awesome.
These kids are like freaking mortified.
First off, no. Second off, what the fuck is the matter with people?
I don't know.
Can I say this too? Like, I barely have enough energy just to get all the presents wrapped. Let alone stage this whole, like, I'm going to have the Grinch come over to my house.
It's a stupid rich person thing for sure.
It's got to be. Like,
I'd be nervous.
Some of them, the kids are holding their presents. Like, they've staged it to where all the kids line up and hold their presents.
That's not good.
And then the Grinch comes in and swipes it out of their hands. And these kids are just like...
Are they little?
Mortified.
Wow.
Yeah, they're like 5 and 6.
Oh, that's not good. That's not like, if I did... Layla's 9. If I did that to her, we talk about it all the time. Like, what do you do if you get kidnapped? She's like, I put my thumb in their eye till I hear it snap.
Yeah.
Like, she's pretty aggressive. Like, so I bought her a bow this year for Christmas. Like, a real bow.
Right.
She knows where the guns are.
It's not a safe maneuver in the Hilton household.
It's not a safe maneuver in any household. You either wreck them for life mentally, or someone gets hurt bad enough to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, one of those two things is happening.
In your
right?
case, she's almost more lethal than you because you're going to be like, I know the laws and what to do. She's going to come out with a bow and just sink one right into the guy's face.
Like, she's seen me cut deer open. She runs into the kitchen, grabs a paring knife, runs out, sticks it in the guy's thigh.
We're going to gut him and then take him to the train station.
Yeah. Yellowstone. He's going to the train station.
Yeah.
Like, Dad, get the shovel. I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
Like,
those people are nuts.
Like, if a burglar comes in your house, you're going to be like, your role is going to be more of like figuring out how to deal with Layla versus the murderer, because the murderer's the burglar is going to be like dead.
A real, if
he's
a
not
real
an arrow
burglar happens, that dude's dead.
Yeah.
I was calling the cops. Send a bag.
Yeah.
And a transport.
Right.
This mother's dead.
He's gone.
He's gone.
You see
now I can appreciate I've seen the joke running around where you wrap empty boxes under the tree. And then when your child misbehaves, you grab it and chuck it into the fire. So they can watch their Christmas disappear in front of their eye. Like I can actually appreciate that.
I mean, I can appreciate it, but I mean, that's cold.
Yeah.
That's cold.
Yeah.
That's real cold.
I was about ready to do it this year. Our freaking kids are snoopers. They pretty much discovered everything that they were getting.
You need that locked safe room, man.
Well, this used to be it. Our podcast room is where we used to lock it in there.
The stoop.
Yeah, I can't lock that door.
Well, then get a way to lock it.
No, I mean, it locks. It totally locks. But if I close that door and lock it, then it sweats really bad. Like, it literally rains inside that room.
Put a dehumidifier in there. You're a plumber. Get some pipes. Drill a hole in the concrete.
I'm not going... If they want to ruin their own Christmas, let them ruin their own Christmas. I'm not going to those Great Lakes.
Just start telling them, hey, from now on, if I think you're looking next year, nothing. Or
Yeah.
in 1 year, just be like, I freaking told you.
Yeah.
Or
Like, there's
whatever.
no gifts.
Well, I thought about hiding all the ones. Like, there were some that I knew they found. Like, 100% knew they found. And I thought about just not even giving it to them this year.
Yeah, be
And
like,
so then they're like
what-
wrapping their gift. Be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Dude, bring them over to my house. I'll put your shelf up in the barn. This is just Mitch's
We
gift to his
hid
kids.
some in the neighbor's garage, so that
Or the
covered
rules,
us.
whatever
good.
you find, you don't get as a Christmas present.
Right.
That's true.
I guess unless
put
they-
you know what you should do is put a camera up.
Yeah.
Like one of the little microscopic cameras.
Yeah.
And then like on Christmas morning, be like, okay, so all the ones that you guys found and cheated on, I threw away. And then just show them the video.
So here's your socks, underwear, and Tic Tacs.
Yeah, stuff you didn't find. So Merry Christmas, you shitheads.
Yeah.
I didn't
Here's a
learn to-
bag of Skittles.
I didn't learn to appreciate grandma's socks until I was in college. I used to hate getting presents from grandma and grandpa. And then in college, when I got socks and boxers.
Well, I saw that thing you sent us the other day. It was Spider-Man with half his costume ripped off,
Yeah.
and the meme was like,
my underwear. Watching me buy more camera
watching
gear.
you buy more camera gear. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I know that. And now I'm questioning his hygiene also.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
all at one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus, gives him underwear. Dude, they're a nickel. They're $5.
Hey, I got 12 more pairs. So we're good. I'm good for a couple of years.
I mean, I have good underwear. I mean, it's just a meme.
Yeah.
I have good underwear, like one pair. These are
I
my
have a
Sunday
good pair.
underwear.
No, we went out and we spent like $80 on that, like a pair of thieves underwear. It's like 4 pairs of boxers, or just like, man,
I don't even know what mine cost.
I love it.
Danielle buys them on Amazon.
Like,
Can't
that's where
find
you
them in
spend-
stores anymore. So
What's the matter with you two? All right.
underwear, it's important.
yeah, underwear, shoes,
What
bed.
do you want to talk about today, Mitch?
We got 3 topics.
Pick one. Let's see what you got.
We are first going to talk about limiting our losses when a win cannot be achieved.
Oh, okay.
Then we're going to talk about where you get your drive, where you get your motivation, your inspiration.
Oh, cocaine.
And lastly, seeing it's the end of the year here, we're going to talk about when to plan for next year.
What are you going to start with?
I don't know. We just start at the top.
All right, limiting losses.
Limiting losses. So we've all been in those situations where you go in with this desired outcome, you want to win, right? This episode is brought to you by Field Pulse, the official field service management software provider of The Void. Field Pulse allows you to organize your customers, your employees, your jobs, and your revenue with ease. Field Pulse is the perfect option no matter if you're a business of 1 or 100, and their plans start at just $99 a month. Check out the link to Field Pulse in the description of this show. And you start investing time and energy and resources and everything, and then you start to realize, I can't win here. I'm in a no-win situation. So at that moment, you're going to redefine what winning is for that scenario. And a win is going to be limiting your losses to where you're losing as little as possible instead of gaining as much as you hoped to gain. So there are plenty of scenarios where this happens on a regular basis.
And it could be tons of stuff. You could be talking about one specific job. You could be talking about a building purchase and you wanted to move the company there. You could be talking about
An employee.
yeah, you could be talking about, hey, I hired these 2 employees and they're going to take me to the next level and it doesn't work out.
Right.
I mean, when I think of that stuff, I think of like one specific job. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of where my thought process goes to. Okay,
Yeah.
I've got this job. It's a commercial job. It's going to take me 4 weeks. I've got my number set. We're going to be done. I'm going to make, these are all BS numbers. I'm going to make $10,000 after I pay for everything. And then you get into it and you're 2 weeks in and you're like, oh shit.
Yep.
I have completely underbid this. I may have to pull 2 guys off and finish it myself. Maybe just to break even.
Yep.
And if I do break even, I will consider that a win.
Yep.
Like that's one example. Another example could be, hey, I bid fixtures, but I didn't bid specific fixtures. Now I need to pull out what I thought was going to go in there and put something more economical in there to try to make up, any sort of gap,
Right.
I may have to, instead of having 3 guys, I may just have to let one guy go out there, my all-star, and, rock it out.
Right.
It could be 100 different scenarios, but that's what I think of first
Yeah.
when I think of limiting losses.
Yeah.
And considering it's still a win. If everyone makes a paycheck and you don't make money, that is a win a lot of the times when you've screwed up or something bad has happened or you missed something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, a lot of people think winning is like profit, or winning is getting to the next level, or winning is expansion, or whatever the case may be. And so, that's what we all hope it is. But there are a lot of cases where winning might be minimizing financial loss. So, some real examples here, like that we've experienced here in our company. We grew a lot in the asset department this year, with, adding a couple more trucks to the fleet and upgrading our trucks to the bigger, larger trucks, and the vehicle pricing going sky high. And anytime you add a truck, now you have to get it wrapped, and you have to get tools on it, and you have to get inventory on it, and shelving on it, and insurance, and all the things that go on to it. And we're in Missouri, where we have to pay sales tax on vehicles, and so all of those things have significant costs going into it. And so here we thought we were going to grow a ton this year, and we did grow a ton. Like, we have more trucks on the road right now than we've ever had before. But you look at the bottom line, and we made less money this year than we did last year.
Your growth was just in a different area than maybe you thought it was going to be at the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah. And so...
and that's why they call it gross. Your gross earnings were better.
Yeah, gross earnings were better.
But your net was less.
Net income, the same. Net income was significantly less.
Yeah.
So, on one hand, we're positioned nicely, and we stacked all of our expenses into this year. We held some expenses over until next year, but we stacked most of our expenses into this year to where next year we should grow financially. And if you think about it, we could double in financial performance next year, and it would still not be all that great because we did not double, and like, we lost ground this year.
Yeah.
So we almost have to double next year just to make up for the down year this year.
Well, and that, that's perspective too. And next year we may be having the same conversation. You may be saying, "Hey, our net went up." Yes, say it went up 10%, but we put 3 more guys on the road because we had to get to that 3%. And that's not a loss. That's just a different perspective on where you thought it was going to go.
Yeah. Like, it's kind of. People can make their books look like anything, right? People can make their businesses sound like anything. They can make their business sound like it's wildly profitable, but it's because they're not paying taxes, right? Or maybe their business, they're trying to hide it to make it look like their business makes no money. Yeah. And it's because they're trying to avoid paying taxes.
Man, we made $1.2 million. I took no salary.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Right. And so, and you hear about it all the time about guys owning aggressive growing businesses, and they'll talk about how I didn't take a salary for a year. Well, okay, yes, you're right. You may not have, but it's because the business is supporting you in other ways, right? Like, the business is paying for your vehicle, so you didn't need that part of your salary for your vehicle.
Yeah.
The business is paying for your insurance, so you didn't need salary for your insurance, whatever the case may be. And yes, there are guys that are financially stable enough to where they don't have to take a salary from their company, and they can divert things all the way back into the company. But another thing that you hear too is you'll hear guys on these really aggressive entrepreneurs, they talk about, I had to take out a loan to pay my bills. Well, that doesn't mean they're broke.
It means they're stretched so thin that they had to borrow money.
That means
and
that
that's
they
not
were
good either. You don't want to be in that situation.
Well, it just, like, on a rapidly growing business like that means that they were at a low point in their cash flow cycle. Yeah. And so, like, in the HVAC business, for example, maybe it was, the tail end of winter. And that's a low point in your cash flow cycle. If, you're not doing a lot of furnaces, you're not doing anything AC yet. And so maybe they're at a low point in their cash flow cycle, and now they're, having to take out a loan to pay all their bills. But then in 2 months, they've got more money coming in than they know what to do with because ACs are breaking left and right. So, hearing snippets of people's life, you can really water down your impression of how their business is doing. But, for us, we recognized early in the year, this is going to be a tough financial year. We're going to grow in personnel, and I'm going to stack as many expenses as I can in this year, and we're going to show virtually no profit this year.
Yeah.
But by the end of this year, we are going to be positioned with the assets on the road to go out there and dominate next year. And so that's what we're doing. I missed my mark by a little bit because we have 5 trucks now, and I don't have 5 sets of inventory, and I don't have 5 sets of tools. And so I asked my accountant here at the end of the year, I'm like, I need to buy another set of inventory and another set of tools. It's like $21,000 to $23,000 for all of that stuff. And my accountant's like, that is definitely not a this year purchase.
She's like, right in the eye and was like, hey, Mitch, you're a dipshit. Well, stop.
No, we have the money in the bank. Like we could
need that money for next year.
Yeah. Well, what she's looking at is she knows how we stacked everything this year. She's like, if you don't watch out and you don't have any expenses for next year, you're going to have to pay a boatload in taxes. So she's literally pushing it off until January 3rd of 23.
Yeah.
Just so that all of that $23,000 of expenses can land on 23's taxes instead of 22's.
I used to do that all the time. Like if I had a bunch of jobs come in December, which it always seemed like before Christmas, there was, I would have 2 or 3, I'd have 2 or 3 full change outs almost every year. I wouldn't cash any of those checks till January 1.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't do it. And then I wouldn't enter it into any of my stuff.
Yep.
Like, I'm not taking that money.
Yeah.
And I would tell that it's not illegal to wait to cash checks, everyone. Yeah. I would just tell them, I'd tell the customers, like, look, I'm not cashing this for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then, because, and it wasn't so much I was trying to defer it to next year. It was, I knew where I was at, and everything was already set, and I was like, I don't want this to be coming down now, so I'll just start it, next year. And then when February 1 rolled around, I was reset to where I was, and I really could get a better grasp of the goals and what I wanted to do that first part of spring.
Yeah.
In the HVAC business, sometimes that first part of spring is, you're not doing a lot, so it kind of gives you a little bit of a natural cushion.
Yeah.
To do what you want to do and not have to stress out until the busy season starts back up.
Yeah, I've got a acquaintance of mine that I don't know the exact size of their business. I feel like their business is somewhere between like $10 and $12 million a month in revenue. Big business, and
just 10 and 12 million.
Yeah.
I'm Mitch. I hang out with a bunch of fucking rollers.
I said acquaintance, not friend. But I just watched an online conversation with he and somebody else where he has about $950,000 in checks that he is not depositing until January 3rd.
Yeah, so that's how you do it.
Because if he did, then all of that would, he's teetering the line of profit, no profit.
Yeah.
For what he's showing.
Pushes you way over.
And so, that's good. That would be, nearly $1 million in profit. Whereas if he deposits them on January 3rd, well, then the accountant has a whole nother year to figure out what to do with that. So, home builders also get it kind of easy there because I don't know the exact lines around that, but they can take their deposits from people have put down on homes, and they can choose to account for that, or they can actually file a certain form to where it does not actually classify as revenue until the house closes.
Yeah, it should, because...
And they get to go either way with it.
Yeah, because houses start late, especially in the winter, start early.
Yep.
In the spring, there's just... You don't know where that money's going to be, and if they're way over and have to bring another check, it's completely different.
Yeah.
So you can't claim something you don't know is going to be a fact.
Right.
Basically, is the way they get around that.
Yeah. We were just kind of big picture stuff there with limiting losses, but limiting losses can also be stuff where a job goes awry. You could be doing a $500 or $600 job for somebody and make a mistake and cause $1,000 in damage. And limiting your loss. I hate to say it. It happens in plumbing a lot because
it happens to everybody.
It does.
It just happens.
It does. I mean, you could be a painter and spill a can of paint on somebody's carpet or something, and holy cow.
Yeah, or you get the wrong stuff mixed, even though you have in a text message, "This is what I needed." Had a brain fart, and then completely painted someone's kitchen the wrong color. I know someone that did it.
That happened to us.
Here's the house.
When we built this house, the builder texted. We texted the builder the paint code that we wanted, and our text was correct. He didn't copy and paste it. He just tried to remember it, and then whenever he texted it to the painter, he got two of the numbers mixed up.
Oh, shit.
And this is for all of the interior walls in the house, and our walls are like light gray. Well, the code that he texted the painters was pink, and like Pepto-Bismol pink. And they went and got their paint and ordered it, and it kind of runs like they don't really even know what color they're doing, right?
No,
it just shows up to the job, and
it
just shows up to the job. They pour it in the things and go. And they got like almost done painting, and they're like, this just isn't right. And so they were texting the builder and calling the builder, and they're like, "Are you sure this is the right color?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's what they sent me." And they're like, "This is pink."
They wait till they're almost done.
Yeah,
I'd have been getting paid twice.
Yeah.
We know the whole time that you're doing it. They're just like, like they were probably thinking it for a lot longer.
We're getting paid twice for this house.
I think what it is.
Shit.
I think what it is probably like the crew was doing it and they don't even care, and like the foreman or somebody shows up and they're like, "What the hell?" And so here's the catch: is my builder is colorblind, and so and so he shows up here. He's like, "You got to be kidding me!" And they're like, "No, we're dead serious. It's pink." And he's like, "I'm coming there right now." So he comes here, and
what is he gonna do?
He
looks brown to me, bro.
He can't tell the difference between light pink and gray. It all looks the same to him, and so he's like looking him in the eye, and he's like mad, and he's like, "I need you to be honest with me. Is this pink or is this gray?" And so they were like, "We're not kidding you. It's pink." And then they realized they got the numbers mixed up and everything. And so then he calls me. And he knew I was like stopping by the house every night, to check on progress.
Hey, dude,
he's like, "Hey, you may want to stay away for a day. We made a mistake. Gonna fix it, but I'm just gonna tell you that pink is gonna make a great primer for your gray walls." So I stopped by just to take some pictures of it because it was kind of funny. But I mean, yeah, you could have losses like that. You could. I mean, there's things that can happen, and so. Where I see guys go wrong with this is always on little scale stuff. Guys will dig their heels in. Like, let's say a customer, let's maybe say you and a customer had a disagreement about how much work was going to be done. Customer thought you were going to do, 15 tasks, and you thought you were only doing 10 tasks. And so now you get towards the end, and the customer's pushing you for these extra 5 tasks, or whatever amount of work, right? You could dig your heels in. And you could start an argument with the customer, and you could do all that, and it's probably going to cost you a customer, and it's probably going to cost you several future customers, because now you're going to make that guy so mad that he's going to go, telling everybody and their brother that you tried cheating him or whatever else. Or you could recognize that, okay, we've landed in a scenario where a win is not possible, so let's limit the losses, or let's try to turn this loss into a future win. And so you come to a compromise on those 5 tasks, or whatever the case may be. You kill them with kindness, and you kill them with service and everything else, and you make it to where you're walking away from it, and he knows that the customer knows that you didn't have to do what you did, but you did it because it was right. Well, now how many people is this guy going to go bragging to other people about you? Like, he's going to tell everybody about the experience that he had with you. So you could turn that loss into future wins. Just by trying to, navigate the situation smoothly. So, just because you're losing doesn't mean that you need to throw in the towel. What's that, Austin?
Poor Austin.
Well, you did that with the 2 ladies in Grain Valley, where basically it was a repeated loss, or was a loss where basically you just capitalize on it. And so rather than being like, I'm going to send someone else out there, I'm going to go there, spend extra time, and just wrap it up and just take the L. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a shower valve that we rebuilt, and the rebuilt failed, and we told them, you really need to consider replacing it. Well, the replacement is not really an option in their eyes. And so I went back out myself and rebuilt the valve again and spent some extra time with him, gave him some extra pointers, and really set the expectations for the fact that even this rebuild might not hold because your valve's just a junky valve.
Just wore out.
And so, but rather than sending one of our plumbers back out and then the customer calling in 2 or 3 weeks later saying the valve is still loose and not shutting off all the way and everything else, I went out, spent the extra time.
It's preemptive damage control.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, like
just nip it in the bud.
Yeah, we were lost, right? We lost on that one, but I was able to limit it to just that one visit by spending some extra time.
Sorry to cut you off, Mitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're fine.
Dave, give me that look.
Austin, what the hell? No. What else you want to talk about?
Topic 2. Where do you get your drive? So,
what do you mean by that? Like, where do I get my drive to keep going when things are bullshit? Or do you mean, where do I get my drive to try to be next level?
Where do you get your drive to excel in anything? And so, this is kind of from a Facebook post that I made today, but it's got some real stuff in it that I've kind of gathered over the last week. So I'm going to read this Facebook post here.
Okay.
Can there be significant inspiration without significant trauma? Where do you find the inspiration when you don't have to overcome sexual abuse, drug addiction, prison time, death, or any other significant traumatic experience? It seems that some of the greatest leaders, some of the best disruptors, and the most accomplished people in the world have used their past significant trauma as inspiration to get where they are. And these people are indeed an inspiration, no questions asked. But where is the inspiration for a person who had a normal childhood? Inspiration for a person who had 2 parents and a great mother and an amazing father and whose parents are still married 45 years later? Where's the inspiration for a person who's never had to overcome or a drug addiction, let alone used an illegal drug? Where's the inspiration for the person who waited until marriage to choose to have children and was never dealt the single parent hand at cards? I think a lot of truly amazing people are leaving their goals held short and handicapping their outcomes simply because they lack the inspiration that comes from some of these prior traumas. Because they lack these past traumas, they also lack the inspiration needed to do amazing things. And it was a great conversation starter for Facebook anyway, but it's really real. Like, you get in any group of people, and some of the major, most accomplished people that you see have had to overcome some serious hurdles to get there. We talked about it in like the first episode of this show about how immigrants in America, or people immigrating to America, oftentimes find themselves more successful than people who have lived here their whole lives. And it's because they had to overcome so much more adversity just to get here that they placed more on the line. They had more at stake, and so they wanted their outcome to be larger. Some people may see me post that and consider that maybe I'm lacking in inspiration. Like, I'm asking, like, how do I get inspired when I don't have all this? And that's definitely not the case at all. It's more or less just a conversation starter for, okay, it's easy to see some guy get out of prison and come out and turn his life around, or some guy overcome a drug addiction and turn his life around, or, somebody have a single parent and have to raise, kids by themselves or whatever else, and then they come out to great things. But I think there are a lot of, let's say, middle-class people or people that grew up in the middle class that are fizzling out to nothing because they didn't have a lot of that prior trauma that they had to overcome.
I think that you've got me in deep thought over here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the answer to that is. Like, normally when you have stuff that you bring up to me, I'm like, okay, this is my answer.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure. Like, we've talked enough, and you probably know this. Like, I struggle with that all the time.
Right.
Like, and I came from not like a super rough childhood or anything, but like, it wasn't normal. It was a little messed up, and I had my flaws that inspired me to do great things, and then I've asked you personally, I think a couple of times, like, where do I get my inspiration now that I've, actually done something? Like, how do I keep going? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, what the answer is. I mean, personally for me, I have a 9-year-old daughter, and she's like really the reason that I try to be a good example and try to be on top of everything, whether it be work or, how I interact with her or the money we make or, the home we have. Like I need to be the example of, hey, this is the threshold.
Yeah.
And, when she's dragging or, whatever, or we're talking about serious stuff, I'm like, babe, how do you think we have this stuff?
Right.
Like, how do you go to your little friend's house and they have nothing. How do you think we are here? I don't know. Well, it's hard work and it's dedication, and that's how we get there. Like, that's what keeps me at the level I'm at. And it is still a struggle for me, like, almost daily.
Yeah.
Like, I have to keep reminding myself, I'm doing this now for the next generations.
Right.
I'm doing this now for my grandkids later, if I get to have any. Or, I'm doing this so that I can buy my wife a 68 Camaro for Christmas and she can, love it. I'm doing things for other people,
right,
not for myself. But if if we didn't have her and it was just Janine and I mean, it'd be a whole other story. Like, what's driving me?
Right. Right.
That's a great question.
But, I mean, I think the reason I'm thinking about stuff like that is because, like, we go into a lot of customers' homes, and so we get to see personalities of all varieties, right? We get to go into customers' homes of uber successful people that are really driven and really disciplined, and they're very exacting with their time and their expectations. And then we go into other people's homes that are just flat lazy, and they don't care when you show up. They don't care if you fix it or not. They don't really care what it costs. They're just kind of, riding life for whatever it is. And it's just such a wide range of people that it just kind of makes you wonder, like, where does everybody get their drive to excel from? And I guess maybe the basis of the question is, like, where is the cause for the lack of drive in people that aren't doing much?
And I think a lot of it is born into people. And it's, it's like it's a real cop-out answer. But, like, my brother and I are basically from the same upbringing, right? But my brother, he gives no shits about anything.
Yep.
Like, and I don't say that to be, like,
No, he's just laid back.
I'm not downing him or anything, because sometimes I wish I was more like him.
Yeah.
Like, nothing but he does not need a boat. He does not need a car. He does not need a home. He rents from me. But you know what? He owes no man nothing. He's completely relaxed all the time.
Wait, let's see if Dave still says that when Joe misses his rent payment next month. He owes no man nothing except my rent.
There's no debt. Like, he doesn't have a mortgage. Doesn't have car payments. And he's completely relaxed all the time and having a good time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, part of me is like, man, maybe I should have, like, been down. But it makes me wonder, is that just kind of born into you?
Yeah.
Is it nature versus nurture? I mean, I think part of it has to be, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where...
That's like a whole nother topic, but I think that's a lot of it.
That's where personal choice comes in. Like, you could have two people that are, brothers or sisters or whatever, same parents, same upbringing, same household environment, but they turn out two totally different people because of their level of ambition and their level of drive.
That's my point. Was that from an uncle? One kid's like an uncle on the mom's side and one kid's like an uncle on the dad's side? Is it because we talk about this all the time, being able to step outside of who you are and look at yourself and say, what do I want to be?
Right.
And then making the decision, I'm going to be successful.
Yeah.
Or I'm fine with being who I am.
I think ultimately it comes down to the fact that inspiration is a choice. You choose to be inspired by things, or you choose to not be inspired by things. So, like, you could have two brothers grow up, dad's a drunk, One of those brothers grows up to be a drunk because dad was a drunk. The other brother grows up and never touches a sip of alcohol in his life because dad was a drunk.
Yeah.
Same exact scenario, same exact upbringing, but they chose to let it inspire them in different ways.
Did they choose, or did it just inspire them in different ways? This is, if we could do this, it could be a super deep topic. I'm not trying to, but I mean, I can see. What's hard for me is I can see both sides of that coin being the correct side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can see both of those. It's very difficult. The real challenge and the real success stories, whether you come from a bad place or a good place or whatever, and to be honest, I think it's not as quote-unquote inspirational, but if you come from a successful family and then you continue to be successful even though they didn't give you anything, like you just literally said, no, I'm going to keep going. You know, it's easier for people to be lazy than it is for people to stay driven when they have things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can see how coming from a successful family and continuing to be successful on your own, not being in a family business, as being greater than someone coming from poverty and saying, okay, I'm done with this, I'm going to be great.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying one way or the other, but I can see, both sides of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if there is a right answer. I will say this, and I might catch some shade for this, but that's fine.
Catch some shade.
There are times.
He's trying
to be cool, man.
There are times where I do somewhat get mildly jealous of somebody who has some of that past trauma to use as inspiration, because it kind of helps channel why and where you want to be. Like let's say a drug addict who's overcome addiction and he will never ever, like, he's seen rock bottom. He will never allow himself to be there again. And he uses that to light a fire under his ass every single day because he knows what the other side of the coin looks like, right?
Yeah. I
don't have that fire. I don't have that. Like, I've never seen that side of the coin. I've never been at rock bottom, so to speak, right? Or guys that grew up like literally dirt floor poor, right? And then somehow they make it up through the ranks. Well, they've seen dirt floor poor. I've never seen that. I grew up in a middle class home, and we never went without a meal or anything like that. So there is an element of curiosity to people that have that level of inspiration because they've seen it firsthand for how bad it can be. They've lived it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and like I say, that's not like some way to humble brag that I'm grown up in middle class family or
it's just
anything like that. I can just
makes a point. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great tool to use to inspire yourself and to keep you driven. So
I think for me, it's not jealousy. I think for me, it's like pride, because it's like you grew up with people that they made the opposite choices of you. They either got on drugs, they had kids before they're married or a kid before they're married, and now they're your age and they're affecting policy decisions and voting a certain way, and you're just like, okay, because you screwed up, now that's your whole theory of voting for higher taxes and abortion on demand, all that sort of stuff, is because you couldn't control yourself and stay out of drugs or stay out of your boyfriend's house. Right. Now it's affecting my life, and so that's where pride comes in, and you have to be careful.
Yeah, so you're saying that like it's people will typically vote for what's going to make their life better or easier, and because of two different people's paths in life, one person may vote for certain policies that make staying at home without a job and raising a bunch of kids from a bunch of different dads and all of that stuff is easier. So it's almost like enabling those people, whereas the people that have not had to do that or chose not to do that, they're going to be voting for what makes their life easier, and that's usually against those policies.
Well, I think he's talking about pride as in, I'm proud that I didn't make those bad decisions, so I'm going to keep moving forward and keep doing great. Like I want to be doing.
Right.
I'm just going to take that as a personal level of pride that I'm going to, make the right decisions and be successful and do all those things instead of falling to the wayside of, I've already screwed up. I'm just going to,
Right.
I was kind of meaning it the other way too. Like pride, I think how pride can seep in is like people think, oh, pride just means you think you're better than everybody. No, pride could be just being like you feel like everyone's watching you, or pride can seep in through a thing of like when you're a kid, if you study and you work hard, you're going to be successful. But what happens is you do those things and you end up having to live under the policies and voting decisions of like someone else who didn't make the right decisions. And so you're just like, okay, why am I paying higher taxes? Why am I helping fund abortions with my tax money? I'm just like, I did it right. Like it kind of seems to be like, okay, here's going to be a reward if you study and work hard, but like, nope.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of meaning like in a negative way where it's like pride isn't just, oh, I think I'm better. Pride can seep in through other.
Yeah. Yeah. You're talking about, systemic policy. That's what drives you, is the ability to affect systemic policy to avoid other people from falling into those kind of traps.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm always kind of thinking on a societal level, because that's like a common argument with anything is like, well, what are my life decisions? They're not affecting you. Well, like on a personal level, like you doing whatever down the street doesn't, but through time on a societal level, those things do start to affect.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes good sense. Makes good sense. It's just an interesting topic to think about, like, where does inspiration come from? Some people seemingly have it easy to identify where their inspiration comes from, and other people might have to dig a little deeper for it. So, topic 3.
What do you got?
When is it the best time to plan for next year?
Every day. I mean, really. Like, I always think of things, not just business, but I try to think of, like, life events also. I'm always thinking, I'm gonna contradict myself in what I say, but I'm always thinking, okay, next year I want this to happen. Mm-hmm. I want this to happen, and I want this to happen, and I want this to happen. And I will do whatever I can until that point to try to make those things happen. Right? Business life, it doesn't matter. But then, like, on a small scale, I try to think of whatever I'm going to do now is going to affect later. Whether it hurts or helps those year later goals, I'm not too worried about. I mean, it's a complete contradiction. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I have to do what's best for now, but I want to try to make... I have to make the best decision for now, but I also want it to help down the road.
Right.
And if the decision I make now hurts me down the road but helps me now, I'm going to take the help me now thing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't try to think of, okay, on January 2, I'm going to have $40,000 left over from the year before. I'm going to, get this truck, and I'm going to, pay these bills, and I'm going to buy this rental house, and I don't try to micromanage those long-term goals. Right. I try to micromanage the short-term goals and then have those long-term goals just in the back of my mind always working. Right. Is this going to help me get there? Maybe. Yep. Maybe not. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does. So I'm kind of similar. I have 2 ways that I plan for next year. One is I put next year's plans in place. I start building, like, the whole year for next year. I start building that in October. A lot of people wait until, like, after Christmas, and they're like, oh, what do we want to do next year? Yeah. Well, it's kind of too late because, next year is, like, in 5 days. So,
and I've heard...
It's kind of hard to be, like, hit the ground running,
Mm-hmm. And I've heard of guys that try to do 6 months. So they'll take January 1, and then 6 months from January 1, they want to do this. Mm-hmm. And when they get through 6 months of the year, they're thinking of, okay, at the beginning of next year, I want to be here. Yep. They're not thinking a year from now, in May or June. They're trying to think of it in, 6 months increments. And I know lots of guys try to do quarters. Okay, the first quarter we're going to do this, and then the next quarter we got to do this. I think that kind of puts too much of a timeline on you for trying to cram goals into a space.
Right.
Because we've talked about it on the show a lot. Just because your numbers in the first quarter were down doesn't mean that at 6 months from January 1, they're not going to be back up to where they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I think people worry about numbers too much, and they should be more worried about long-term goals and bigger increments. Yeah. Especially as far as business goes. Hey, if we get to this point 6 months from now and we're here, and we had to go through, you could have gone through 6 bad times and still got there. Yep. That's still a plus. You're still reaching your goal.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people that, say, I can't plan out in a year, I can only plan out a couple months at a time. And the people that say that, I have a scary feeling that a majority of those people are just lazy. They don't want to plan out a year. They don't want to put they don't want to envision about where they want to be next year and then work the problem backwards to put a plan in place to actually achieve it. So what they think is they're just going to work as hard as they can every day, and where they end up is where they end up. And
that can work.
That works for me. It's my general. Well, for me, I generally I was by 30, I want to be rolling shooting videos. That's my thing. And I was 29. Right. I got a job as a videographer, so it works as long as you're putting discipline behind it. If you're just saying, oh, well, one day. But for me, I was well, I'm going to try to get as good as I can, and I'm going to work towards that direction. And by 30.
But what about 31?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, and I agree with you about people being lazy. I don't think Austin's lazy by any means. But I also think that that's a learned task, a learned mindset.
Learned behavior.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, until someone comes to you and says, or you hear, hey, you can plan out in advance. Mm-hmm. And just because you don't think that, I think what gets a lot of people is, well, if I plan 6 months out and I work so hard to get there, and then I get there and I didn't reach my goal, I've not met my goal and that's the end of the world. Right. Or, I've wasted all that time. No, you worked hard to get there. Mm-hmm. Look, failure on a personal goal level or personal business level doesn't necessarily mean business failure. Yeah. And I think people get caught up and they think, okay, if I do all this stuff and I don't get there, I will have failed. So they're almost afraid to have those bigger goals. Yeah. Well, if you worked that hard and you got to 99 instead of 100, you didn't fail.
And you're doing better than if you hadn't made a plan.
Yeah, you were really close. You were working to get to something, and that is, I mean, that's more than a ton of people do.
Yeah, your business can be wildly successful even though you failed to meet your goal, right? Right. Like let's say, I'm just going to use hypothetical numbers. Let's say a business does 1 million this year, and next year they want to do 2 million. Well, that's the goal is 2 million, right? You can still have a wildly successful business that did 1.5 million. Yeah, you fell way short on your goal, but your business was still a success, right? I got to listen to a guy speak that is in the business of buying and selling large companies. And he said that his last 9 deals that he did, he sold these companies, all sold for over $50 million. And yeah, now he's just the broker. He's the guy who handles the buying and selling of them. He's not selling these businesses. He's like the agent that's selling the businesses, right? He said all of his last 9 that sold for over $50 million, they all had 5 to 6 catastrophic failures in the business, and they still sold for over $50 million. They all had 5 to 6 problems within the business that were major problems that could sink the business if not managed properly. But yet, the business still sold for $50 million. So what you glean from that is there is nobody's business out there that is perfect. There's 9 people right now that's walking to the bank with over $50 million, that had catastrophic failures within their business, and they weren't allowing that to hold them back on pushing other goals. So that's why it's good to have multiple goals. Set 5 or 6 goals for 5 or 6 different areas, because if one starts slipping, you've got the others to fall back on.
And, you know, a lot of that is what we haven't brought it up in a few episodes, but that's the mindset, right?
Yeah.
That's the mindset that you have to come up with personally to drive you.
Yeah.
You know, banking off the second topic. If you don't have that mindset of nothing is going to stop me, I don't give a shit what happens, I'm going to keep going forward and try to get to my goals that I've set.
Yep.
Nothing can stop you.
Right.
I mean, we talk about it all the time on the show. We haven't talked about it lately, but if you've listened to the show for the first 50 episodes, you know we talked about it all the time. People were sending in messages, stop talking about mindset. Look, you have to have that killer mindset to keep going.
Yep.
I mean, professional athletes have it.
Yeah.
You know, Tom Brady, king of the douches, has it. He keeps going.
Yep.
His wife told him, you either quit the NFL or I'm divorcing you. He gave her the finger. They got divorced. He won like the next 3 games.
Yep.
You know, is he going to win another Super Bowl? I have no idea. I doubt it. I hope not. I hate the guy. I'm tired of freaking talking about him. Talking about him on my podcast, and I hate his guts. But he has that mindset of no matter what happens, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
You know?
So I go, like, whenever it comes time for me to plan for the year, I do one, like, overall annual planning in October. And then every month of the year, I look at where I want to be 1 month from now and where I want to be 12 months from now. So I'm kind of doing like a micro annual plan every month. But it's two faceted. It's where do I want to be in a month, and what things do I have to do to make sure that I'm where I want to be in a month. But then also the where I want to be in a year from now is kind of a peripheral, like it's a floating target. Like, where do I really think we can be? Which direction do I think is the best for us to go in? Do we want to grow in profit, or do we want to grow in size, or do we want to grow both, or, you know, whatever the case may be.
And what gets me to that main goal that we were talking about in October, right? Whether it be May and you're talking 12 months from then, or May and 1 month from then. You know, it's kind of like, this is a little off topic, but it's kind of like the farmer's mindset, right? The farmer always has to be moving towards 12 months from now.
Yep.
He always has to be moving to 6 months from now. He always has to be moving from 3 months from now. And what that does is dictate his month-to-month basis. And then that month-to-month basis breaks down to a week-to-week.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be thinking, if it's going to rain for the next week and I have to wait for it to dry for another week, do I have to plant literally right after that to get to my 6-month goal of having that winter wheat be ready to pop in May?
Right.
You literally have to be thinking about all of those things all the time, all at once.
Right.
You know, it seems so ridiculous. Well, how can I be thinking about every week and every month and every year from now all the time? Well, you basically have to just take the blinders off, open your mind up, and be like, okay,
right,
I have to be able to globally think about my year in the next 2 years at the same exact time I'm thinking about next week.
And so where this applies to most of our listeners, if you're listening to this show and you have yet to start your business will never get off the ground until you put it on paper when your business will come off the ground. If you're allowing, you know, well, if it happens, it happens. I'll keep kind of working towards it, but I'm not going to make it a goal out of it. Well, then guess what? You're never going to be in business. And you probably shouldn't if that's your mindset. But if you write down on paper, we will be open by this date, and then you start working the plan backwards for how do you get open by that date? What needs to be in place a month before that? What needs to be in place 2 months before that, 5 months before that, and 6 months before that? And all of that kind of stuff, well, guess what? Now you have a plan. And now you can start working towards that goal. And big fucking deal, if you say you want to open July 1st, and you don't open until August 1st, guess what? You still fucking opened.
Right.
So it's not a failure that you didn't open by July 1st, right?
No, if you get to July 1st...
You got your timetable a little off.
If you got to July 1st and you have 7 of the 10 things accomplished, you only got 3 to go.
Yeah.
Don't fold up and be like, well, I didn't make my goal.
Right.
you worked towards your goal. You're just a little late.
Yeah, or you wrongly calculated your time, right? Like one of the greatest things.
Yeah.
So I used to do a lot of commercial construction plumbing, and there were jobs that would go south, right? They'd be out of
First
budget
off,
or out of money.
Half of all commercial jobs go south,
Yeah.
and they're always late, and all of them are over budget.
Yeah.
Every fucking one of them is over budget.
And so, they were trying to come up with these performance incentives for the plumbers that would, hey, if we get these jobs done early, we're going to share the proceeds with the plumbers, because they helped get us there and all this. Well, when the jobs would go south, it was always this argument. Well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. And I was looking at it from like the management perspective, and I'm like, there's really like a job can go great because your estimator overbid the job and you landed the job and there was just extra money in it.
Yeah.
Or a job can go south because your estimator underbid the job and you were fucked from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of them where like you never stood a chance and you don't know it until you get into it. But, all of those plans still come down to like maybe you got your timetable off. Maybe the commercial estimator got his estimate a little off, right? But guess what? Those jobs still got done. The people still got paid.
Yeah.
The building still got built. People are still enjoying that building to this day. So it's not a failure because you missed your timetable a little bit, but it is a failure if you never actually set the date.
Right.
So I was talking with one listener of the show who was buying a van. And they're buying a van, but they don't really have a start date yet for the company. And I was kind of prying into them a little bit more. They're already laying out cash for a van, and they're not thinking about starting their company for like 6 more months. And I'm like, holy cow, you're going to have 6 months of vehicle expenses before you ever even start the company. Like,
or were they buying it with a loan or cash?
I don't know. I don't know on that.
It's not really an monthly expense if they're paying cash. Just
maybe.
Side question. That's all.
But I mean, like when we started our company, I started out with one van. I took delivery of that van 2 weeks before we opened our doors, and I had 2 weeks to get it shelved, get it stocked, and get it stickered.
Well, that's probably too late.
It might have been a little short.
Okay, that's 2 weeks too late.
Might have been a little short.
Don't say a little short.
But
you fucked up.
I mean, I made it happen, right? And I'm not complaining about, I didn't have enough time to get it done or anything else. Like, I made it happen. But I didn't buy my van and then think, in another 6 months, I'm going to have a company. Like, no. Like, this...
Yeah.
You got to put timetables on it, and realistic timetables, and you might be off a little bit, but you'll still get there.
Right.
So, that about wraps it up for this show.
Love it, man.
So, guys, if this show brought you value, if it made you think of things in a different light, if it lit a fire under your ass, do us a favor and help share this show with somebody else who might also be wanting to start their own company. So we don't pay to advertise this show out there or anything like that. So the only people that hear about this show are the people that have been shared the show. So please do us a favor and help contribute by getting our message out there. So we would really, really appreciate it. Until next time, guys, we will see you later.
That's it.
Peace.